Everybody's here. Last minutes. Good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, March 27th, 2025, and I'm calling this special meeting of the Carmel-by-the-Sea City Council to order at 10 a.m. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barron?
Here.
Councilmember Booter?
Here.
Councilmember Drama? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Delps?
Here.
And Mayor Byrne?
Here. All right, welcome to all attending today in person and remotely. This meeting is conducted in a hybrid format. You can view this meeting and participate with comments on Zoom or view our live stream on the city's YouTube page if you don't wish to speak. During special city council meetings, public comments are only held for items listed on the agenda. We only have one order of business today, and public comment will be accepted after questions from the council. We'll first hear from those present in person, followed by Zoom participants. While stating your name is optional, it helps us accurately reflect your participation in the meeting minutes. Remote or in-person participants who do not comply with the requirements of the Brown Act will be muted. We'll now move on to our order of business. Item 1, and our only item today, is receive status report and provide policy guidance on the Carmel Police and Public Works Building project. I'm going to turn this over to Chip, and he's going to run the meeting from that point. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to everyone who's in attendance today. This is meant to be, an update on your direction from February 10th. Thanks to Ms. Gorman. Please use your microphones so she can accurately capture everything that we're saying. And as I said, this is a follow-up. This is a special meeting. We met a little over a month ago, and we received some direction from council. And so you're going to hear from Mr. Hammond, our architect. You're going to hear from Chief Tomasi. You're going to hear from Ms. Bilsey. She's hiding. I couldn't see her behind. Yeah, there she is. I want to make sure she was here. I was like, uh-oh, did I mess up? And then hopefully we're going to get some direction from you, Council, on where we go next. We do not have all the answers about this building or a project in general because we need additional direction from you. Whatever your decision is today, whatever your direction is today, we're going to need more project architect time. And when, again, what you're looking at today is whether you want to make some longer term improvements to the building to extend its longevity, or look out, as we originally recommended, to a very long term, a 50+ year, entirely new facility. And again, that is one of the options that the council has. One of the options that we do not have is doing nothing. And again, what you'll hear from Chief Tomasi is the improvements that we have set in place as directed by the City Council. But again, we really want to know from you where we go from here. Can we get the slide up because the presentation, Chief? Can you pop that up? I think we're going to go right to Mr. Hammond, and what Mr. Hammond's going to present. And we didn't give him the time at our last meeting to present the schematics that he had developed in great detail, but he'll present existing and then what we have done as identified in the agenda report, the reductions, the floor area reductions that both Mary and Paul have worked with him on to reduce the overall square footage of a remodeled Public Works and Police Department itself. Please ask us questions. You might ask us, would you rather sacrifice the shooting range or the EOC? And we'll give you an answer on that. The answer is going to be the EOC in that particular case. Is moving the EOC to Vista Lobos optimal? No, it's not. And is it inexpensive? No, it's certainly not. We'd certainly have to make a lot of improvements, not the least of which are improvements that are consistent with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So let's launch into it, Mr. Mayor, if it's okay with you, unless any questions for me. And I think the first two slides were mine anyway, so I think we're ready for Mr. Hammond. There's a little button on the side. You turn it on, I think, Chief.
Thanks. Ready, John? I sure am. All right. Good morning, everyone. And it's a nice cloudy day. And
John, you're going to want to stay right on top of that microphone. We have purchased new equipment. It's going to be here, I promise. But until then, yeah, just stay right on top of that microphone.
Just lean into it a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There you
How
go.
does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. Folks hear me? All right. So anyway, we're going to be looking first at the building as we had originally programmed it and created a floor plan for it. And then we will quickly go through the downsizing that we have done. We heard you loud and clear. There wasn't a direct order to downsize, but we heard almost everybody mumbling that, yeah, we better make this as small and as tight as we possibly can, which we have done. So anyway, what we'll be looking at is our draft conceptual program plan. This is not exactly a building yet. It's putting the program, we've developed a program, and we've arranged the program as a series of spaces, basically a floor plan, which will ultimately become a building. And in this case, it's both the police building and the public works building. So our previous direction was, the first thing we did is we did an assessment of the old building, and hopefully you guys have all been and seen the existing police station and what a mess it is. We found that the building, it's over 60 years old. No major remodel has been done to it. The building is obsolete. It's basically unsafe. It does not meet code. It is not ADA compliant. And it's just a terrible place to be expecting city employees, in this case, police and public works, who both work in that building, to be working there. It's just not, it's so out of date, so unsafe. You've seen the assessment report. There's, basically the place leaks like a sieve. That's one of many problems. Anyway, finally the building needs a complete renovation and expansion or an entirely new building. So we were directed by after that came across, we were directed by the previous council to prepare plans for police and public works on the existing site and to use the existing building as much as possible. We attended many in-person and virtual public meetings. There were a whole series of meetings about the possibility of using the Vista Lobos site. There was a tremendous amount of public comment, and the council ultimately decided to stick with the existing site. And what we have done is, we've taken to heart what we have learned by attending quite a number of Carmel meetings and hear the Carmel public talk about what they're interested in. And we have based what we're doing on the Carmel's planning guidelines and, of course, public comment. And we see loud and clear that the city likes to preserve your eclectic architectural character. You want buildings to respect neighborhood scale. You want them to provide, wherever possible, interblock pedestrian connectivity and visual connectivity.
and you want to protect views as much as possible. So I think we're trying to do all of that and work all of that into our plans. And of course, we've been working with police and public works staff to prepare a comprehensive program. And I'll just briefly show you the program, which you can't read it, of course, but the result is that the police are currently occupying about something over 7,000 square feet, whereas they need about 16,000 square feet. So we have provided them with 16,000 square feet. And what that has meant is that we have to move the public works out. They are currently occupying 1/3 of the building, or of the police building. So we've had to move them out and now have the police on all 3 levels of the police building. This is the program for Public Works. We also went through an exercise with Public Works using, their org chart. Did the same thing for police, of course, and came up with a program for them based on lots of discussions with them. They're occupying about 4,000 square feet, which is the bottom floor of the police building, and an addition along the west side of the garage that is newer, actually. And we found that they also needed about twice as much space, about 8,000 square feet. We also heard that this facility and other city facilities were extremely crowded, and so we were asked by staff to include some extra offices in Public Works to accommodate other staff, potentially planning or the building inspection division. So, whether you want to do that or not, that's a decision that needs to be made. It's rather complicated with Public Works because they also have large workshop areas, fleet maintenance area, parking areas, storage areas for various kinds of equipment. All that has to be accommodated. They're currently occupying about a little over 20,000 square feet. We determined that they needed at least 32,000 square feet on site, and they had another 32,000 square feet of equipment, primarily, that we believed, at least with the plan that we've got at this point, needed to go off-site. And there's also part of what they are currently using is a 2-acre site at what's called the Rio site at the south end of town. So here's the existing building. You can see surrounded by a red line. Pardon me. On top, yeah, oops, wait a minute. Oh, here we are. Yeah, on top is the corporation yard, which is kind of in a pit off of Torres Street. And then there's a big open plaza area that you see here. Under the plaza area is a garage, which leaks like crazy. This is the Public Works, some Public Works offices here. Here's the police station, which the bottom floor is occupied by Public Works, and the upper 2 floors are operated by police. This is just to get you oriented in terms of what we're trying to do. Here's the existing elevation, the garage, the Public Works offices. You can see the plaza there, and of course the existing police building. In order to make the scheme that we're talking about work, we can preserve part of the existing concrete garage. It needs only modest upgrading for seismic and to carry the loads of a light frame structure on top. In order to get light and air into the middle level of the police station, we have to lower the garage to be like it is shown down here, to make a level plaza all the way up to the second level of the police station. And that, gets light and air into the middle level of the police station and leaves us only one basement level. All right. So if there's any questions along the way, please go ahead and interrupt me. This is showing the bottom level of the facility, which there's a garage space, a large garage space, which is existing. There's access off of Torres Street through and out to Junipero Street, and then we've added a lower level of public works, fleet maintenance shop, and here is the police building and the secure parking. And to look at those in a little more detail, you see the secure parking area here, so that if a cop comes in with a prisoner, he can come in here. The gate closes behind, so this also acts as a sally port. So we don't need a separate sally port. It's not ideal, but it's workable. And then you enter into a space. There's a place for an interview room here, live scan, where the fingerprinting and photographing and whatnot can be done, and the evidence preparation area and evidence storage. This is a very important part of the police building, because if evidence is not handled properly, it can be negated in court and not usable. So they will enter the building. There's a table for them to prepare the evidence on. It's bagged up and tagged and put into a locker, which is then available to the evidence technician, who takes it and does what preparation needs to be done. There's room for high-value storage, and then a large area for storage of evidence. And this is really a critical thing that is done properly. We also have downstairs the shooting range and electrical and server space. Anyway, that's the bottom floor. And also then we have also on this lower level, it's elevation 209. We also have the, space for the field crew. Wait a minute, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, space for the field crew here. They enter, there's lockers for them. Their superintendent is there as well. And we have the fleet maintenance facility. There's 4 stalls for maintaining cop cars and other vehicles. Then we go up to the second level, where we have the open plaza, which is currently leaking like crazy. All of that, all of the existing plaza will have to be removed, and the portion of the plaza lowered, and the remainder of the plaza all has to be redone and made waterproof, which can, of course, be done. You see on top of the fleet maintenance building, there's room for approximately 10 parking spaces, and then we have the police station over here on the right-hand side. So this is the open plaza area you see, and you see the police building. So you enter into the police building. There's a community room here, which can also serve as an EOC, and so also serve as a briefing room. So that is accessible, directly accessible to the public without going into the secure space of the police station. So that's important. There's also a soft interview room now. Right now, there is no place to interview the public without bringing them into the secure area of the police station. So I've heard tales of, having to interview rape victims in the lobby of the police station. Not a good situation. We have dispatch here, who also serve as a greeter in the lobby, and then a door into the secure space. At this space, we also have the gym for the police and their locker room. You'll notice this whole back wall here, this is all retaining wall down at the bottom floor and also at this level, so there's no windows out there. However, the front, we freed up the front to have nice access to open air. Then on this is turned so it doesn't line up the way it does on the previous slides. But this is the public works area. It contains it contains the director's office, some project managers who would manage projects on your site, the forester, the environmental, and basically all of the administrative staff for public works. It also has 6 additional offices for overflow from the city hall should you decide you want to do that. We've eliminated most of those in the reduced plan that you'll be seeing in a moment. So then we move up to the upper level, which we have the police station here, and this is the police station, the upper level of it. It's the existing upper level. This is at 3. The floor level would be 320. There's also parking, which is actually dangerous parking. It's not secure, would not be secure parking or totally secure parking, but we've also roofed it over because it has dangerous line of sight from 4th Avenue. So we've solved that problem by covering those parking spaces, but still maintaining them available. Next slide is the detailed plan of that. We have the chief's office, has a great view of a good portion of the town. Very important to have him have that view so we can see visually as much as possible what's going on in town from his office. We have the commander's office, records, report writing area for patrol sergeants. Anyway, we've got the whole basic administrative side of the police up on that upper level. And of course, one thing I didn't mention is that there's an elevator that connects all 3 levels, so the whole building becomes accessible. Now here is a view of the building. This view is showing you, it's kind of a bird's eye view from the southwest. These are not the buildings. You can imagine these as chunks of stone, which in the next phase we will be carving the building out of. So it contains the whole building, but actually will become smaller, and there will be sloping roofs and that kind of thing. But this gives you an idea of the total mass and more that will be obscured in terms of views from what is there now. So this is what you see. This is the Public Works building, the plaza, and the police building. What police building now becomes a 2-story building. This is actually, the roof of this building is somewhat lower than the roof of the existing police station. And you have direct level access off of Junipero to the front entrance of the police station and the front entrance of Public Works. This is looking at what we see from eye level at off of Torres Street. You see the parking here on top of the maintenance, the fleet maintenance facility, and that will slope down to the plaza. And you see just barely a little bit of the police station. The rest of it is obscured by the youth center. We've also have existing parking up in this, or pardon me, there is existing parking, and that will also be accessible parking to serve both the youth center and the Public Works and Police building. This is the view from street level from Junipero looking towards Torres Street, and you will be able to see Torres Street from Junipero Street, and the people that live on Torres Street will be able to see through between the two facilities. Oops, the Public Works building on the right, the plaza area, and the police building on the left. And you can see that how the entryway works. Basically, it's an at-grade entry level from Junipero Street. It's accessible from Junipero Street. Junipero Street itself is too steep to be accessible, but if a person does get out, they don't have to climb up any stairs, and it's virtually no slope between the police station and the plaza. And just again, keep in mind that this is not architecture. These are large lumps of stone out of which the building will be carved, and that's what you will see at our next meeting. Now, we did really take, and one last thing is this is what we had proposed as a 2-acre courtyard, a generous courtyard to take the excess, not excess, but be able to house the fleet of larger equipment that the Public Works has. There's a large area for logs and chips. You can actually, at your Rio site, the chip pile is large enough so it can easily be seen from space, and this would give them space to store gravel and things like that they need to have at a moment's notice in emergencies. Like if there's a flooding situation, for example, they can come here, they can grab a truckload of AB asphalt, gravel, and use it to create a temporary dam. There's just many uses for that. I mean, of course, it's available day to day, but it's also available at a moment's notice in an emergency. Now, yes, here's that Rio site. You can see the chip pile here, which is rather large, and equally large pile of logs and storage of miscellaneous things over here. Anyway, now we get to the reductions. We heard you loud and clear that you're hoping that we can reduce the size of the spaces. And what we did very briefly, I'll go through the numbers at the last slide, but we cut the firing range in half. We reduced the office spaces for the police building by approximately 10%. We reduced the open office by 30%. We reduced the hallway spaces by 30%. For Public Works, we had a similar exercise. Of course, we were doing these in conversation with Public Works and police. We went through plans that had stuff taken out of it. And anyway, so for Public Works, we were able to remove 6 offices and 4 open office cubicles. We reduced the office spaces and meeting rooms and lockers by a total of 10%. We reduced the hallway space by 30%. And we also made the maintenance facility 10% smaller. So I'll show you what that looks like here. The yellow, oops, let's see, pardon, whoops. Oops, I went out of there. Evan will help me. Yeah, go back. Is that? Oh yeah, this is right. So you see from the bottom floor of the police building, the yellow is what we have removed. You see that the fleet maintenance building is smaller, and the ground floor of the field staff area has been made significantly smaller. This, of course, frees up other space, and the floor plans are not exactly the same, because by doing this, we had to do some reorganization, but we've preserved, we think, all of the essential functions. We basically made them smaller and given you less space to expand out as necessary in the future. Here we have the plaza level, where you can see we've removed a fair amount of the police station and also a fair amount of the public works building. And then the top floor, of course, we've removed part of that. And so we've made very significant cuts to what we have. And I know both Public Works and the police have felt some pain, quite a bit of pain to do that. It also makes these buildings significantly narrower when you look at them, particularly from the streets on either side. And you see the Public Works building becomes quite a slender building in this case, which I know at previous meetings there's been thoughts that those buildings were too large. Well, now they're quite a lot smaller in terms of their visual impact from both Torres Street and Junipero. And so the result of this is we get a 22% reduction in our building areas. And that's not counting the yard space, but the actual buildings are reduced by 22%, or we've taken out 6,800 square feet. And we've also reduced the corporation yard, which we had previously shown as a 2-acre, and down to a 1-acre site. So it's really significantly smaller. So anyway, that's pretty much where we are. I would say the next steps is we would create a downsized conceptual plan based on city council directives. We would take those blocks that I showed you previously, we would sculpt those into actual architecture, and assuming that you like that and approve it, then we would move on to creating a schematic design, and which we would be showing to the city council. Let's see, I'm sorry, we show you a changed plan based on your comments on the architecture, and then we would go on to a schematic design where we would bring our team of engineers back in and create a schematic design with all of the bells and whistles accounted for, and we'd be able to give you a reasonably accurate cost estimate at that point for the total project, which will not be inexpensive, that's for sure, but we hope it will satisfy you. You may wish to make further cuts. There are possibilities for other things that could be done. You've talked about moving things off-site, things that are now in our existing program on-site. So all of those will need to be discussed in these early designs to get us to a legitimate engineered schematic design. Any questions?
Do you want to start, Jeff? Do you have any questions? Hans? Bob?
I have no questions.
Alessandra?
I do have a question, but I don't know if I should save it for the chief.
I'm sure the chief is right here.
Okay.
At your service.
All right. Well, for example, the community room. We have many different community rooms that are quite adequate and large throughout the community, whether it's Sunset Center, whether it's, doing a sharing agreement with the youth center, which is right next door. So why is that specifically something that you absolutely have to have at the station?
That's a good question, and I appreciate it. What we did is when we did the initial plans, we added a community room that would be a multi-purpose room. It would be your emergency operations center. and then function as a community room where we could hold meetings. Is it required? No, that'd be the first thing I would take out if we're reducing size. And that's part of the reduction plan that we did. The only issue with that is now you have to move your EOC off-site, which we plan on doing. I'll share in a moment kind of that plan for now to do the safety and security improvements. It's not ideal. It wouldn't be recommended to move an EOC off of site from the police department. It just makes a little bit of continuity issues as far as communication, but it is possible. So when we talk about reducing size, the community room is not essential. So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But what about something like a mobile EOC? Wouldn't that even be more practical in the case of an emergency? Wouldn't that serve you better than being stuck in the building if you could go, move it to wherever the location of the emergency is in town?
Yes and no. When you talk about mobile EOC, you're talking about a lot of expense for something that needs a lot of maintenance, and you have to move around. We're 1 square mile, so what would end up happening with a mobile EOC is you wouldn't move it. So you're buying a trailer that's going to sit somewhere. Could you do that? Yes, you could. Yeah, but for this town, I wouldn't recommend it. Big cities like San Jose, San Francisco have mobile emergency operations command posts that they go out to sites, but they still would have an EOC operating somewhere in the city, more of a functioning building.
Okay, thank you. And then just another quick question is something like a gym. Like once again, the youth center is next door, and I don't understand why we couldn't have a partnership with them where the officers could use the gym. I don't think that would be that much of an imposition rather than building a specific site in the building. Some of these things are just seeming a little bit like luxuries rather than absolute necessities.
Yeah, and that came down to the needs and the really needs and the wants. Having a gym inside the police department is definitely a benefit. That would be nice. Years ago, we did use the youth center with gym equipment. That was donated by Arnold Schwarzenegger, actually. That ended years ago. We didn't have that relationship anymore, but that's definitely something to explore. That's something that we could look at.
Okay, thank you.
I have a few questions. The first one is for Indigo. If you had come to Carmel and we asked you to design a fire department for Carmel from Greenfield, like you're doing with this sort of, how big would our fire department be?
Good question. I'm not sure what your fire department needs are. I wouldn't be able to
Have you
answer.
seen our fire department?
I have not. Well, I've seen the outside. I guess you have one fire department building here?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd be pleased to answer your question, but I need to know more.
You should take a tour of it to see what Carmel buildings look like. It's not big.
Yeah, you probably would need a significantly larger one because equipment has gotten bigger. And
we're making it bigger for our fire engine that's showing up soon.
Yeah.
I'd say that's sort of how Carmel does things. It's a historic building, it's small, and we make it work. It would have been nice if we had started this project with that sort of thinking, I think, but some of us weren't here at the time. Rio Park, has there been discussions going on? I mean, let me just jump ahead a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we had a ad hoc committee last year, which I think was working with you, and I didn't know that we were going to go to this extent with this current generation of plans. But so we haven't been involved with what's been going on at all, as far as I know. Rio Park. It seems like there have been some significant discussions that Rio Park is a given, that we can move things 1 to 2 acres over there, and I'm not sure that's the case. Your plan is sort of heavily dependent on Rio Park being a storage yard.
Our plan is not dependent on Rio Park. We do feel like there is a need for, you're already, let's put it this way, Public Works is already using that for storage, okay? So it exists. I'm not saying you should use it, but it is being used. It's part of Public Works' existing program.
It's,
So
it's really not fair. It's
somehow-
not fair to ask you these questions because you're
no,
an
that's
architect.
that's okay. But
It's,
what-
it's probably not a done deal that 2 acres is available. I mean, there's a whole discussion
I
that can take
understand
place.
that, yes.
So I'm a little concerned that we've taken it. That's the obvious place to move all this, and
Right.
and without that, some of this sort of falls apart.
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I could say something. We took a particular approach to this project in terms of having as low an impact on the neighborhood, the Junipero neighborhood, for this police and public works building. If we say, okay, you know, we can't use Junipero, we can't use Vista Lobos, then we could get everything onto that site, but it's going to be a much bigger impact on the neighborhood. And that may be the most appropriate thing to do for Carmel, or it may not be. So that's one of the things that you guys need to grapple with. And then if you do grapple with it and you say, hey, what happens if we do it? We can sketch that up and put everything onto that site, and then you would take a look at it and say yes or no, or, you know, whatever. But and there's other things. We have a large area devoted to fleet maintenance. There's other possibilities for fleet maintenance, you know, and other things. You could use some more of the Vista Lobos site. So I don't know.
I guess
A lot of options.
I didn't hear in your presentation today about moving Public Works and other people over to the Vista Lobos building. That was part of this proposal, correct? I saw that in
It
the-
is not. It has come up to my knowledge, just in the last couple of weeks, like the concept of moving the EOC up to Vista Lobos. And I will say that you can move Vista Lobos, I mean, assuming that your building inspector approves it, you could probably move the EOC up to Vista Lobos into the existing building, but only on an emergency basis. There are very strict regulations for EOC buildings. It's an essential services building, which means that the engineering has to be 50% stronger than an ordinary building, because it's an essential services building. So, and you wouldn't just be able to remodel and strengthen the room that the EOC is in. You would have to do it. You would have to re-engineer the entire old lumberyard building.
Got it.
So it can be done, and it's probably a good idea to do it, or you build another small building up there. I'm not sure what. It's something we haven't looked at. I've only been in that building once, and I see that it's a very old frame building.
All right, so
And I don't know what has been done to it.
I've got one more question
Yeah,
so we
sure.
can keep things moving along. Why is it going to take what's starting to look to me like 3 tries to get the buildings right size? I would have hoped that
Yeah, I'm sorry, say that again?
it looks like we're going to take maybe 3 tries to get these buildings, if we do the kind of project you're talking about, to get the building right sized. I'm wondering why we didn't come up with the right size in the first iteration.
I think I can answer that, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor. I mean, because I don't think that was the last council's initial direction.
Okay.
And again, I think the last council was saying, build something that's going to last as long as the existing building is. Build a contemporary facility that might be able to become a public service center, where you've got a one-stop shop for permits. So, looking out farther than, are we getting by, is this okay? building what we need rather than, a need minus something exponentially less.
Okay, now Chief's going to make a presentation on.
Yeah, the chief's going to go.
Can I just
through-
ask just one quick
Oh, yeah,
follow-up
go
question on that? There was some language in here on that point about, I think it was in specific relation to the corp yard, about how it was originally designed to handle future needs and it's been downsized to accommodate today's needs. How would you characterize the reduced space plan? Does it accommodate future needs for the next 50 years, or does it just accommodate today's needs?
The reduced plan, perhaps not. I mean, I think, we don't know what, 50 years is a long time. So I don't know that it completely accommodates us for 50 years. Certainly the addition of a separate corp yard someplace, which we've, taken and squished it down to 1 acre. That helps a lot. Having the flexibility to do stuff up at the Vista Lobos site, even if it's just within the envelope of the existing lumberyard building. I mean, that building, just looking at it, you're probably going to end up rebuilding it. I'm guessing, but I shouldn't even say that because I haven't studied it. Our engineers haven't studied it.
Mr. Booter, it's not, again, the corp yard was built for a time when we quite frankly didn't have as much equipment as we have now, as many, just even passenger truck vehicles. So, we put into the CIP a skiff loader so we can move sand on the beach. We have to find somewhere else for that, to store that.
So it's more the corp yard more than anything that has the implications for the future, new equipment, et cetera.
Well, I thought that was genesis of your question, sir, but that is a component. I would say, again, the changing nature of policing has necessitated the requirement for additional floor area. And then again, and I think Mr. Delves went with Mary into Public Works yesterday. I mean, it's not a great, some of the offices are on the, in the basement level with, they're windowless and they're not heated, and and the rest of the staff works in basically a long hallway. So again, I think that when the building was originally designed and built and occupied, it just didn't, I don't think it met the needs of 60 years ago, let alone today, sir.
I've got a quick question before we wrap it up, and it's probably for the chief again. Could we go back to one of the slides that has all the office spaces? I believe it was the one on the main floor. And the reason I'm asking this is we are currently under a reduced policing model. This was what was decided by the council in 2022, where we reduced, basically we've got 2 officers on duty and a supervisor. So isn't there too much office space for the number of officers and people we have on duty at any given time?
It's the floor plan on the 3rd floor, Chief, or the 2nd floor, whatever it is.
Oh,
Other way.
I believe it was towards the end.
sorry. Let's see if I can find it. Say when.
I think it goes back 2.
I passed it?
I think the one I was thinking of was back 2.
Okay. It's so small.
Go slower.
That one?
One more. Forward. No.
Forward.
Yes, that one. That's the one.
That's the new design.
Right.
Okay. And your question again was?
Well, we've got the reduced policing model where we have fewer officers. So I'm just questioning this amount of space based on the staff, police staff that we have.
Yeah, based on what we have, this is a lot of space, but we also have our volunteers and our CERT members that use the building, which we don't have space for now. The reduced staffing model is a pilot program. I don't see that lasting into the future, and we're going to need more bodies, and that's for another discussion. But we did, in the remodel of this, significantly, or I guess 10% reduced a lot of the space in here, because if you look at it, there are areas where we can reduce space. And again, that goes back to what the city administrator was saying, is our direction originally was to look towards the future and adding space, because that's always a need in the city. So now with this direction, reducing that space is what we've done. And I think we did a good job of reducing it, still allowing us office space and working space for everyone that works in the building.
I have a question, Chief.
Yes, Mayor.
EOC. Can that be a shared resource between PG, Monterey, and Carmel?
Good question. It can, yes. I believe PG actually does have Monterey run their EOC. I know that other cities use a building on CSUMB to manage their emergencies. They have one building that they share. That's a good one. You could do it. Managing an incident from that far away creates its own issues. You still want to be relatively close. I wouldn't recommend it, but it is possible. So
Yeah,
yes.
but we're sort of spoiled that we're 1 square mile. If we were Fresno, it'd be a whole different story. Just getting across town would take forever.
Correct. Yeah. But you could manage incidents remotely even. You know, an office space is great to have people together, but you can do it in a small area.
But it might also let us have a more sophisticated capability than we could afford to do here if we were sharing it.
Correct. Yes.
All right, so any other questions from the council? All right, seeing none, why don't we go out to the public and...
So the chief's gonna...
Oh,
the chief's
so you
gonna-
want to take it all together?
That's my recommendation.
call.
Okay,
Mr.
that's
Mayor.
fine.
Yeah,
You're
so-
running the meeting, not me, so go ahead. I'm sorry. We didn't
Okay.
plan the meeting, so bear with me.
Yeah, if I could, I think I'll touch on it as I go through. I want to touch back on a couple of questions that came up regarding the gym and the EOC, but I think I'm going to hit them in this. So when we talk about, at the direction from the last council meeting was, what are the safety and security issues that we can deal with now for the police building to address some of the issues that came up in that meeting? And so what I want to talk about is, since February 10th, we've been looking at those areas of what can we improve. Let's get estimates, let's get some bids, let's start ordering some of the equipment that'll make this building safe and secure. A lot of the issues that came up way back in 2017, we are addressing now. And it starts with the security doors. That's been a main topic throughout these meetings. We are looking at adding 8 secure doors, that's entry and exit ways into the police department, and then 2 into public works. That would include cameras and required areas for security. The estimated cost on that is about $85,000 to do that. A lobby interview room. That will help us, obviously, with doing interviews with the public. And then also, if we have to hold juveniles, we have to hold them in an unsecure area, and that would provide a nice room for that, which meets the legal requirement. So to do that, we can make an 8x8 room off of the lobby by cutting into what is now the property room. In doing that, we can add 2 storage closets in there for about $23,000. And I'll get to what we're going to do with all of our property in a moment. Evidence storage. If we're going to do the interview room off the lobby, we have to move our evidence. And part of the issues with evidence was ventilation, and then a secure place for officers to actually package evidence. To do that, we can use that second layer where the EOC is now. We're going to take the EOC out. The main EOC, which is 2 rooms in the back, would become evidence storage, and we can order a ventilation system, and we can do all that for about $15,000. Not a big cost. To process evidence, it would be the initial room as you walk into the EOC, which has the 3 radio stations. It's a narrow room. We can gut that out, and we can add the storage of evidence, a ventilation hood, a processing area for about $25,000. Now we just don't have an EOC. The back lot, that needs to be a secure area. So we have an estimate of $25,000 to put in a rolling gate, very similar to what Public Works has on the back of their lot. And then without an emergency operations center in the PD, because of these renovations, we could temporarily or as needed put it in Vista Lobos. We have an area in there which could function as an emergency operations center. As you heard from our architect, there are concerns with that, but on a temporary basis until we have a remodel done and considerations for an alternate site are done, that could serve as an EOC as needed. So to do that with equipment, supplies, and of course a generator for power during outages would be about $45,000. There it is. The use of the Vista Lobos as an EOC, it helps reduce the spacing needed right now, but we are sacrificing a long-term multi-purpose room, which we wanted off of the lobby, and we're kind of reducing the continuity of operations by moving it off-site. And I want to talk a little bit about that, is what we talked about with, could we manage an EOC off-site? Yes. But now if we're doing that with another agency, we're kind of at the will of the other agency. And if that relationship falls apart, you just lost that ability. Same with having a gym not in the police department, which I think is part of a wellness plan for police. We could do it at the youth center if we reach an agreement with them, but we had that before and that relationship fell apart, and now you're left without that ability to have something like that. So you can outsource things, but once those relationships fall apart, you're kind of back where we are with all of this. So what we're saying to do all this right now, we're looking at about $215,000 to $240,000, which isn't a big price tag to make these safety and security improvements. But I think we can do it for about between that number, $215,000, $240,000. That's all I have. Oh, for that. That doesn't address the other needed repairs that were done in the 2023 assessment report, which really include these major repairs, which would be millions of dollars. We're talking about site drainage, like we talked about the patio and the roof, which is beyond its useful life, and leaks, the earthquake retrofitting, the boiler and HVAC system, which have reached their useful life, the existing fire alarm system, which isn't really up to code in many areas and would need to be redone, the aging plumbing system, and then the electrical system, which is impacted by water intrusion. All of those things are recommended in that report to be replaced and done, and that doesn't even address the ADA requirements that would kick in by doing all this. So we can do these short-term repairs, and I appreciate council's direction in getting the safety and security things done. We still have a lot to address with this building, though.
And I think that's really, once you begin to look beyond the safety and security repairs, and you look at the list of the six bullets here that Mary and Paul put together, that's when the numbers really begin to add up. And so that it's, if it weren't exponentially more, council, you might say to me, just go ahead and do them. We know that's going to cost millions of dollars. But again, where's the break point? Where if you invest enough into a facility that may not work well, and certainly doesn't have the area, are we wasting money on investing in something that still operationally doesn't work? One of the things that you don't see on here, obviously, is ADA access, and there's other elements to the programming of both the police and public works building that it can't be addressed. So we're at this, again, watershed. I'm always reminded by what Councilmember Dramoff talks to me about, which is these cross-generational challenges. And I think this is one of them. So I'm really hoping today, we've been talking about this literally for a decade. Paul and I talked yesterday afternoon. And I just really am begging you for some direction. There's one more slide that talks to you about wishing to continue with Mr. Hammond's firm. Again, you're going to need architectural services whether you do a hefty remodel or a demo and rebuild. just please point me in the right direction, and we'll keep going, council. Again, we've got about $2.7 million remaining in the CIP budget. We are implementing those safety improvements that you directed last time, and Paul just showed you a list of those. But then beyond that, again, the numbers get, again, exponentially larger, and I need your direction today. I'm really hoping that you can push me one way or another, please.
All right, let's open it up to the public for comments, and then we'll bring it back to the council for discussion.
Can someone help me call up the general plan on the screen? I specifically want to see page 28.
We can't do that, Ian.
You
from
can't?
Here. No. Could you read it to us, please?
Okay, well, it's a map, actually. And what the map shows is Carmel-by-the-Sea's sphere of influence, which anticipates that eventually the borders of Carmel-by-the-Sea are going to encompass Carmel Woods, Mission Fields, Hatton Canyon, basically everything out to Highway 1. So this was approved by the Land Area Formation Commission, aka LAFCO, back in the 1980s. It's still the official policy of Carmel-by-the-Sea that this is our sphere of influence. So it anticipates that Carmel-by-the-Sea, the municipal boundaries will grow quite a lot at some point. And as the history of Carmel-by-the-Sea has shown, the boundaries of the municipality have indeed grown over the decades. You know, back in the 1960s, I believe the municipality did the last big land annex. So whatever we do with the police station is going to be immensely expensive, but I would caution the municipality against being penny wise and pound foolish, right? Build a police station that's going to last for several generations, right? That anticipates the growth of the municipality and the growth of its needs, okay? And I would encourage you all to check out that map on the general plan. So yes, you can save significant amounts of money by reducing the program, but I think that is going to be a false economy, and we might be back here in 30 or 40 years realizing that, oh yeah, well, we need to kind of expand because we didn't really anticipate what we would eventually need our police station to do. Furthermore, with public works, you know, we're in the era of climate change. Okay, that is a public works project as we harden our village against the ravages of storm intensification, sea level rise, and all that. We're going to need to have a robust public works program. And so whatever facilities we need to build for them should also be future-proofed. So I know this is going to be very expensive, but we really do need to be thinking in the long term here about building facilities that are going to service this village, ideally for the next 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy Carr. I'm a simple person. I keep things simple. And what I've just heard, not from the chief, but from this Indigo group, makes me dizzy. We are a small community. We need a police station that meets the needs of our community. We're not Salinas. I understand what you're saying, Ian, about, you know, building for the future, but I don't see that happening at this point. And we need to take into consideration our budget. We have a budget. There's only so much money we can use. I also want to say before I go any further that, Jeff, none of this is a reflection on you. You are the only person that sits on this council that is from when this all went on. And I just want you to know that none of this is a reflection on you, and you should not be held the person. You're not the go-to person on it, so just know that. I have a question regarding the status of the Indigo group and the consultant. Are they still on our payroll? Are we still sinking money into that sinking ship? What is going on with that? That's a question I have. I find it disturbing that we hire a group, whether they're given direction or not, to come into our community who does not come into the community and look around and see what we have and see what they can bring with their expertise to our particular environment. And when you asked the question, Dale, regarding if they've seen our police station, our fire department, I think that's a very relevant question. They should have looked at what else we have in our community, because that for sure gives you, as someone who's done construction, it gives you a vision of a direction to go in. So why I'm angry is because we've spent a lot of money, wasted money, and I'm angry because I've spent a lot of wasted time. I got involved in the whole thing in the city because I came to a meeting last January 8th when this was going on. And it's still going on, and I don't see we're getting more and more direction, but I'm still sitting here listening to stuff I don't want to hear. Like, I'm tired of hearing about what Indigo and the consultant have done. To me, they haven't done what they're supposed to do. We need people who are relevant, who understand our community and understand our needs, and keep in mind our budget.
Thank you, Andy.
Nancy Toomey. I have one tactical question of the Indigo downsized plan, which is, does that have the same ability to do the phased rollout that was in their original model? And I would think so, but I just wanted to have that confirmed. And then I don't think I should repeat what Ian said, but I 1,000% support what Ian Martin said with regard to making sure that we don't shrink so much that we're penny wise and pound foolish, and we should have the body parts shall remain unsaid to take on a good-sized capital project for the city, for its future, like was done with, even in its adapted form, with the Sunset Center. I'm a full-hearted support for doing the right thing and doing something that will last. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm Mr. Rarick and Chief. Thank you, everyone, for this presentation. My questions relate to the shooting range, the pistol range, because I recall that was a rather large part of the expense of the new proposal. My question has 5 parts. Who would use it? And would that include outside agencies? Would you be bringing outside agencies in to share it? How many hours a week would it be used? Would it add, and this has to do, I think, a little bit with public safety, is it going to add more weapons and ammunition storage, more than currently exists? Because my understanding is it's likely exempt from our zoning and ordinances because it's a government facility. Who will have the authority to set the rules and regulations for that? And would they be coming before council for confirmation? And then the last part of my question is, because I understand from previous presentations that there's a great deal of overtime that's involved in having our police staff go outside of town to use a pistol range. Do we have an ROI, an estimated ROI over the next 10, 15, whatever years for that kind of capital expense that would help make a decision about whether it really is a good expense for the city or not? Thank you.
Good morning, Carol Hall. I'm no expert on any of this, but I just have a few observations as a resident. Yay to smaller from the original size of the Indigo proposal. I'm wondering, rather than saying it's 10% smaller than it was or 30% smaller than it was, I would rather see statistics on how much larger than it is now. I think that's more meaningful. So turn that one around and let us know how much it's growing as opposed to how much it is reduced from their original very large proposal. And now I believe it's, from what Indigo said, it's 16,000 square feet. I know that an architect came with a 10,000 square foot plan last time. I believe his name was Mr. Malik. And I'm wondering if that has been looked at and determined not to be viable. He said he included everything that they wanted in the 10,000 square feet, and we're talking about 7,000 square feet now, so that's an additional amount, a considerable additional amount, even at 10,000 square feet. And I was glad to hear that there was consideration for Carmel character. That was heard. However, Indigo has indicated that they want a modern architect to take over the plans when it comes to design, which is something that, as Carmel Preservation Foundation member, as you know, I would not like, and I think most residents would not like. We're looking at something that fits into Carmel, regardless of how many trees might hopefully hide it. I think the questionable things that have been brought up are a gym, which I think we could probably, hopefully, work with the youth center and get something permanently agreed to in that regard so that we could eliminate the gym. The shooting range would certainly be questionable, as indicated by Mel. And the community room that Alessandra mentioned might be able to be eliminated or made smaller, whatever. So those are just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Council and Chip and staff. And my name's Donna Jett. I've gone to almost every police meeting, and I want to commend Hammond and Indigo for being so professional. Keep going back as per your command, not theirs, and doing everything you ask. Then they come back and nobody likes it. And they've done what you've asked. They've reduced the size of it. And the question about the plaza, I don't understand that big concrete slab. If they're going to close that off, do we need the plaza? Nobody uses it. There's a heart on it. I was there yesterday. Nobody uses that space. I don't understand that space not being included in it. And as far as the youth center, that's a terrible idea. They barely got their license. You cannot have men and women 24 hours a day going in there to lift dumbbells. That doesn't make sense. It's like, well, send them over to City Hall to do it. Our son said to work out. And it's important the guy gets here an hour and a half early or stays an hour and a half late because he's going somewhere, that there is a gym. That's not a luxury in this world. And are there showers there in the plan? I'm not sure if there's showers. And I think what they've done is amazing. And as far as the outside character, we've all been to Disneyland. You can make the outside look like a castle, a ranch, a western city. That's crazy. The inside is what we're looking at, not the outside. Once it's there, you want to copy off the fire department, just put brick and a red door. So that's, the outside character is so unimportant for what's inside, because you can do what you want on the outside. And I think Ian has said it's the right thing to do after 10 years of this. You keep sending it back, and you keep putting Band-Aids on it, and all the stuff they want to do is another Band-Aid. And that Band-Aid will cost more than what he's estimating. We all do that. So I think you need to keep going with their reduced plan and work on it a little bit. And I don't see anything in there that I call excessive. Even the community room. Yes, there's some at Sunset. Yes, they can rent. Vista Lobos is gone. That was the only reasonable place, and 14 seats over at the library. So a community room is a gathering space, and we're trying to encourage that in our small town, not just to come here, but to gather. And I think the more you get to know policemen personally by going in and out to a community room, the better you feel about the city. And I like Ian's talk. Even though we're 1 square mile, we keep hearing that over and over. Gives us excuses not to do anything. And yes, everybody has a limited budget. Oh, and I got the red. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Anybody else in chambers? Seeing none. Anybody online? All right, so let's bring it back for comments with the council.
If you'd like, Mr. Mayor, I can answer some of the questions that were raised by the
that's
public.
good. Yes.
Ms. Carr asked about, so no questions from Mr. Martin. Ms. Carr asked whether the project architect and the consultant, which is Mr. Muir, and you can ask him questions, obviously, Council. Yes, they're still on contract with us, and that's one of the seminal questions I think that we have here. Do you want to continue on the path we're on or not? But just for everyone's benefit, I don't have the ability to go hire another architect without going through our purchasing ordinance and policy. So if we're going to change horses, it's going to take some time. So that was an answer yes to Mrs. Carr. Mrs. Toomey asked about the phased rollout. I think that that's still a real feasible option in either in a demo and rebuild or a remodel. Ms. Elborn talked about, so right now we do allow other agencies to come and shoot at the range, and we don't charge anything. It's more of a reciprocal agreement. We do have the chief, I thought we shared it with council, but we can certainly share it with you. The time it would take to go out to Laguna Seca, which is where it's a public shooting range, and then the sheriff usually has most of that time bogarted, but we'd have to schedule, and it would necessitate bringing in our staff on overtime to go out there, and they have to qualify every 6 months to make sure that they're accurate in their shooting. So we do have what that would cost, what we estimate it would cost on an annual basis. We'll share that with you, ma'am. And then Mrs. Hall asked about the building being instead of what we reduced it by. So there is a page. You can have my copy of this, but it does show what the gross and net areas are currently, and then what was originally provided. So we can share that certainly, and we'll ask Ms. Gorman to publish this. Obviously, it's on our website, or we'll get it up. And then I think one more question, Mrs. Jett asked about showers there are showers. It's a universal locker room, right? But there are individual, rooms and stalls for showering. So yes, there are showers necessarily in both the original plan as well as the revised plan. So I think that covers it, Mr. Mayor.
I think so. That's what I had. Okay. Donna also made a question about the plaza. Why aren't we using the plaza space? Yeah. And she, of all the people in the room, should probably have a say in that, since she's the one that lives directly behind the facility on Torres, so she would be the one that would have a comment about taking the view away or that sort of thing.
Right. Yes, sir.
She is the most impacted by that.
Yeah.
So I heard.
We use it as a nursery. Yeah. Obviously, we grow baby trees up there, and our kennels are up on part of it for stray or loose animals.
Yeah, but what I heard her saying was that she doesn't have an issue with us building on that plaza.
I see. I see. Thank you.
So, all right. So, with that, let's bring it back and have some comments from the council. Do you want to start? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Not sure where to begin. First of all, I definitely support doing all the security fixes for $250,000. That seems very, very reasonable. And ASAP, let's get those done. They've gone on for long enough. That's absolutely essential. So I'm very happy that those are underway, or at least we're researching what needs to be done. And I certainly support getting them done as soon as efficiently as possible. As far as the design, the massing is still enormous, and I just feel this architectural group does not understand our community. Even these changes and the downsizing you've presented us just still does not work. As Dale mentioned, look at our fire station and use that as a comparison. This is still, you've created something for a larger, more urban community, and it's just not right for Carmel. Basically, just to get to the heart of it, I do not think we should continue with Indigo or Mr. Muir. Thank you for your services, but we need to find a local architect. I really would support doing a remodel that is within our budget, as we've heard from the public, living within our means, and doing this within stages, attacking those 6 or 7 areas that need to be addressed. I just think we're going down the wrong path, and I don't want to continue spending good money after bad on this. In response to Ian's comments and Donna's, with all due respect, the trend seems to be in our community, the whole Monterey Peninsula, is consolidation of services, whether it's fire, ambulance. We may find ourselves 10, 20 years down the road sharing police services with Pacific Grove, with Monterey. So we would actually need a smaller building. So why build this entire large facility that we may not use 10, 20 years from now? We may just need a substation. So that seems to be more of a trend rather than needing a larger amount of space. Let's see what else I had in my notes here. I would say we need to just really look for a local architect, get this done within our means, and come up with a budget. Maybe we need 10 million, maybe we need 12. Maybe over the next couple of years, we raise that money, we reach out to the public, as we've done with the library, and use that as a model, and make this work within our means, and certainly not, within a $40 million budget. That's just wrong. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob?
The phrase of the week for me is fiscal fantasy. And when was it? Monday, we had our first look at the capital improvement plan and the budget overall, and I used that term for the way we were looking at our 5-year capital plan and our 5-year revenue plan and our 5-year spending plan. The 1-year projections can be sound, but beyond that, we just start talking about really big expenditures and no growth in revenue. So that's fantasy. Coming up with $20, $30, $40 million to build a new building, whether it's on the bones of the current building or a new one, is, I think, fiscal fantasy. We have, to our employees, I've gotten to know you, I like you, I love some of you, and I would like for you to have the best possible working conditions that we can provide for you. And clearly, we have work to do. I toured the buildings. It's one building. I toured the Public Works Police Station yesterday with Mary and Cleve. I've been in there 3 times now. The building has significant challenges that need to be addressed, and the working conditions must be improved. But also to our employees, we recognize that you live in a high cost of living location, and therefore your salaries have to be high. On top of that, you have incredible pension plan. The private sector almost doesn't provide that level of pension anymore. Even the unions don't. But you have a great pension plan, and this group is committed to funding those pensions, despite the fact that CalPERS lost a ton of money, and now we on an annual basis have to write really big checks to make sure that your pensions are in place. And those are priorities that we have to take care of first. So I'm choosing to do everything we can to take care of our employees, but the buildings you work in are coming after what you get paid, your benefits, and your pension. The pension liability is $32 million right now. A single 1% drop in the returns of CalPERS would increase that by 50 to 60% to $42 million. And those are, I think, generally accurate numbers. So we've got some time bombs that we're already aware of and that can get a lot worse. So to think that we can come up with another $30 million to do a new building, I just don't think is realistic. Okay, we can go to debt, right? And so we can I now understand, do a general obligation bond that the five of us can vote on. And Hans was helpful and ran some numbers last time we talked about that. $40 million, $2.5 million a year. That's a lot of money. $30 million revenue, another $2.5 million. I can't support that. Not with the ticking time bomb on the pension and deferred maintenance all over town. So I can't get there. We can go to the voters to come up with something that would be supported by some other revenue source. I need to know more about that, but I believe most of those paths require a 2/3, not just a majority vote, but a 2/3 vote. Those votes don't happen very often successfully. So, in 2023, we had an assessment of Public Works prepared by Bureau Veritas and a sister assessment prepared by Indigo of the, at the time they were being treated as two buildings, but of the building. And basically, we went point by point through the buildings and identified everything as being in good condition, fair condition, poor condition. And it essentially said, if it's in poor condition, you should fix it. And I'm sorry that 2 years ago we didn't just start fixing those things, because that's, I think, what we should have done. What Mr. Hammond has come up with is perfect in a perfect world. And I'm just saying our world isn't perfect here. And I mean, I went on at length about it. I would ask, that we do everything that the chief has proposed immediately. And then there was a list of things there. Replace the first one you gotta do is make it so we don't need gutters on the inside of the building. We don't have gutters on the outside of the building. We have gutters on the inside of the building. And I'm not laughing. I'm sorry that it's funny, but it's, let's please find the source of the leaking and fix it. And again, I was interested with Mary and Cleve yesterday to be talking about that, and a lot of fixes have happened, but it's still leaking. So something has to happen, and maybe there's an inexpensive way. I doubt it. It's probably pretty expensive. But let's find it and fix it. The assessment report says the boiler is really old and inefficient. Cleve says it works. And I know that I've had that boiler, and it works until it doesn't. All right, so next year, after we spend the money that the chief wants to spend, and after we've waterproofed the place, all right, let's get a new boiler and new air handling system, and et cetera. So I think we need a multi-year plan for this building to rehabilitate it. It's a travesty, it's a tragedy that it's in the shape that it's in, and that's been allowed to happen. But we are where we are. And to the points that Alessandra made, and others, I think we have to look to the future of policing as potentially a shared service. It worked with the fire department, and most people said it wouldn't work. And I think the reality of that is that it's better, because we now have access to far more firefighters and far more equipment and more modern equipment than we ever could have had, I think, on our own. So I think you gotta look at that. So I'm sorry, but I'm a hard no. Fix the building, and I don't see the need to continue the contract with Indigo, and it's no disrespect to you, sir. I think you're an excellent architect, and you did an excellent job. I just think you were given direction that was unachievable. So, thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Jeff, you want to go first, or Hans? Hans.
Yeah, I'll go next. I think one of the frustrations I have, people have spoken to this, I just don't think that collectively we're running a good process here, and that's like the prior councils all the way through to us. And I think you just have to find those key decision points when you have a complicated, decision-making process like this. And it seems to me underneath it all, there's this concern that's been expressed by 2 of 5 council members here about basically, like, do we want to have a Carmel Police Department? Well, what are we having this conversation about where we have spent all this money on an architect when we haven't even had that conversation? It seems like that is the conversation that should be having. Like, let's dispense with the charade and have that conversation. Now, I'm open to discussion, but my personal inclination runs in a different direction on that. I think it's a small town. We have had our own police department for a long time, but let's have that discussion. I think that has to happen first, right, before we continue down, this path. And then similarly, like, it just seems when we have these conversations, it's the same discussion sort of over and over again, and we kind of keep chasing our tail. And for me, I think we just need to, once we make that decision on the elephant in the room, we need to kind of bite the bullet and roll up our sleeves and talk about the specific needs. And that's what people have started to do today. That's what Councilmember Dramoff was doing. That's what Carol and Donna were doing, right? And Mel, like, what's the ROI on the gun range? Like, let's go each of these components and have the discussion about, like, is that something that we need, right? And, Bob wants to keep the same building and add a boiler, and, I disagree with that. And I think one of the ways that will come out is by us having the discussion about the specific things that are needed by law or that are just things that we should have. And then we have to start there, and that will tell us the direction to go. Like, can we accommodate it in the current building? I don't know. I honestly don't know, because we haven't done that analysis, and none of the prior councils have done that analysis in public, looking at that needs list and going through each one. And I think that could be a really profitable use of our time. The idea that we have let loose architects to go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on this stuff before making those decisions, to me, is it's a real head scratcher. And on the fiscal fantasy front, at the end of the day, we need to go through that analysis and figure out, like, what do we actually need to build, right? Not something that's extravagant. Like, let's have those discussions about specifics, about, is this extravagant or not? Come to a conclusion. We'll all know at that point, do we agree with it? Well, maybe you didn't agree with the community room. Maybe somebody doesn't agree with this or that. But we'll at least understand kind of, how do we get to that point? The square footage that we have, and then, move forward from there. And so, I think the last thing I would say is, if we got, those 2 or 3 decision points down the line, I think we need to do, in the same vein, a better job of providing better direction on all of these contracts, right? Specifically to architects. Like, there was no direction provided here about, like, do we want to create a campus feel with, like, low slung buildings? Like, should the buildings have pitched roofs or flat roofs? Do we want a single monolithic building? And then eventually, like, what kind of architectural style do we want? It would not be hard for us to have the architect look around the village, understand the different types of architectural styles, and then present to us, hey, here are sort of 8 different general genres of architectural style. Which one do you guys want to go with? And that never seems to happen, and I don't really understand that. In my experience in the private sector, you always want to have your contract and the work plan, like, as dialed in as possible. Otherwise, you just wind up wasting money. And so that's sort of how I feel about this. Decision points, focus on the needs analysis, have that collective discussion, and that'll point us in the direction we need to go.
Do you want to make any comments about what kinds of decisions you're willing to make today?
Yeah, I think that the first decision that we should have is the elephant in the room that's been brought up here, which is, it seems like there are some folks that are saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't have a Carmel Police Department. And so why are we even having this other discussion if there's at least 2 or 5, maybe more council members that think that? Like, let's have that discussion. Let's do it quickly. Because of course nobody's gonna vote to build an expensive police station if they think they're going in a different direction.
Yeah, and we still do have a Carmel Fire Department, so in fact, most people don't even know that it happened, and that's a good thing. And that could take some time. In the meantime, we have a building that needs fixing, so related to that, how do you feel? I mean, I know how Bob feels.
I just think the idea that it's just the elephant in the room. Like, no one's going to vote to. The reality is it's probably at least a $20 million project. Like, even if you do the boilers, the ADA, the seismic, and it's still a.
Okay, well, backing up to the doors, some of the basic safety things to make
yeah,
the building
look,
livable right now.
I support that.
Okay,
yeah,
right.
but I just don't want it to be a lipstick on the pig scenario, and I don't want to back into that.
But you're not against that?
I'm not against that, no.
Okay, Jeff?
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent comments.
Thank you. First, thank you everybody for coming. And can you hear me? Does this thing work? To Donna Jett, thank you for your comments. And I would say, you mentioned that you don't know who uses the plaza. I use the plaza. Every time I walk my dog down Unipro, I stop at the plaza. And the plaza is literally one of my favorite places in town to stand. And while I will be sad, and I have expressed this before, if the plaza is a casualty of this process, I love it up there. So I use it. So thank you for asking the question, Donna. Generally, I agree with, Donna made some comments that the outside character is unimportant and it's the inside that matters, and I 100% agree with that. I think, I think that Hans brings up, aside from the outsourcing the police department thing that was brought up by someone else, Hans brings up this sort of frustration that I am still frustrated by, which is that we have not gone over the requirements list in the middle of the document. And I don't understand, to be honest, I don't understand why we're not doing that at this meeting. I think that, Andy Carr wants us to have a small police department. Alessandra thinks we should have a police department. That is, Councilmember Dramoff thinks we should have a police department that fits with the size of the community. Well, we have this document. Like, once again, we have this document that, has a requirements list in the middle, and we've seen the architect go from a big project to a slightly smaller project. But I don't understand, to Hans's point, I don't understand how we have gotten from big to less big without going through that list. And I continue to be frustrated, and partly with staff for not bringing that list to the council and us having a discussion about which of the 50 items on that list are required. I don't understand it. And I think that when we go down that list, I think it will become clear why we need or don't need a 12,000 square foot building or a 9,000 square foot building or a 16,000 square foot building. I think it will be obvious. If the gym takes up 800 square feet and we decide as a council that it's 800 square feet, then we as a council own the decision to have a 12,000 square foot building instead of an 11,200 square foot building. Those are the decisions that I think that we need to have our handprint on, so that we can all get behind the decision to build the 12,000 square foot building or whatever it is. I think that's really important, and I think that's still, I'm amazed, and I've been saying this, for a year. I'm amazed that we haven't done that, and it continues to frustrate me that's not being done. To Hans's point, no direction provided to the architect, and Hans mentioned the campus feel. And I think we did provide that direction to architect. When we told the architect, when the council, not me, told the architect that we want to remodel the existing building. I think that's where that decision was made. And, we had this discussion, I think at the first PD meeting that we had about when I brought up the idea of having a campus feel or a small town feel or whatever. But it becomes very difficult to do that when you've made the decision to remodel the existing building and not tear it down. And I don't understand. I still do not understand that decision. The proposals presented here, remodeling a building is going to cost the same amount as building a new building, if not more. And I don't understand. I don't understand why we have made that decision. If that's the decision the council is going to make to go through the requirements and then remodel the building, that's fine. Like, but that is the constraint that we have placed on the architect, and I continue to believe that was a mistake. To the point about using to the stuff about the sort of plan about expanding public works out into the yard, yes, we do use the yard. Like, it's sort of this unspoken secret, Mr. Hammond, that we store all of our crap in the yard, the wood chips and the logs and whatever other stuff we find on our streets. And it seems to me unreasonable that's ever going to change. But I think this other stuff, that you have putting out there, the equipment in the yard and the bins for the sand and the gravel and whatever, we do that downtown. And I think it's important to not scavenge, property that was acquired for a park. I mean, it's called Real Park. I mean, it was acquired, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. So do you know how many years ago? For a park. I think it's important to not plop public works on it. And I think it's important that we figure out, how to move our constraints around so that we can fit everything that we have in public works and the police station on the building, on the piece of property that we have now. And I think this goes back to the requirements list that we still haven't reviewed. I wrote some things down during the presentation, the EOC, the firing range, the gym. These are all things that we should talk about that might reduce the size of the building. And in addition, some of these things, we talk about moving the firing range, like we talked about moving the firing range functionality out to Laguna Seca. Well, some of these other things, they don't necessarily have to be right in the police station. Some of the functionality that's in the police station and in the public works building could, like, for example, if this building was expanded, if we took over the parking lot, which doesn't seem to be very used, and this is all just a thought experiment, we could move, forestry and the environmental facilities out of the public works building. Like, there's no reason that the street maintenance part of public works necessarily needs to be in the same building as the environmental functionality. I don't understand that. I don't understand why we are dead set on parking enforcement being in the same ultra secure facility that the rest of the police station is. These are the conversations that we should be having about reducing the size of the building that we are going to build and seeing if we can find another home for these people. And I'll say as a note, I was really alarmed, Mr. Hammond, during your presentation when there was some talk of moving, building inspection, like part of planning up to the public works facility. I think you made a note about it, and I wasn't writing fast enough to get it down. But I'm kind of alarmed that we're moving people out of this building into that building, or that's even come up. Like when we're so space constrained in the building that we're going to put up there. I don't understand how we're now talking about moving, without council direction, we're talking about moving some of the functionality in building codes up to that. I was kind of mystified by that. To the note about money, we can say it's too much money, and I get it. We can say, we have staff members that commute from Marina because they can't afford, $5,000 for $5,000 or $8,000 a month for a house in Carmel, and so they spend $4,000 a month for a house in Marina, and they spend 45 minutes or an hour on the road every day, doing this commuting. And when you're in that position, you do what you need to do to live your life, and we we can kvetch about the cost of rebuilding the police station or rebuilding the public works building, and we can say it's too much money. But that doesn't absolve us of the responsibility of having to make a decision on how to provide places for us to live. How to provide places for the people that work in our buildings to work. Like, we can't, it's not acceptable to say, nope, don't have enough money, so we're not going to do anything. Like, that to me is not okay. And we need to provide a facility where, to Chip's point, public works employees are not working in the hall. Like, people deserve to not work in the hall, and we need to sort of figure that out. While the presentation was going on, I wrote, I have my phone here, and you can borrow $20 million for $1.1 million a year right now. Like, maybe we can come up with a solution. And to the comment that that's a lot of money and we don't have it, well, we have $1.1 million a year. We could find that. I'm confident that through the budgeting process, we could find $1.1 million a year. And is that a lot of money? Yes. But to Hans's point that he made last time, this is what governments do. Governments borrow money to maintain their buildings and improve their buildings. This is part of our responsibility. And that, to me, is a better option than saying, no, we're just going to live with this. We're just going to live with this facility and have our employees live with this facility. And finally, to this emergency list. And of course, I'm in favor of doing the emergency list. But what I would point out is that while we've been sitting up here, what I would point out is that this emergency list doesn't include some of the things that are in that requirements document in the middle of that sheet that are absolutely essential for the continued functionality of our police department. It doesn't include, there's nothing on that emergency list, for example, about how we handle people that we have detained. Like right now, we chain them up in the back or whatever it is that we do. Like, this is not acceptable. And there's nothing on this 6 month or a year list that addresses things that aren't going to kill someone tomorrow, but that may kill someone next year. There's nothing on the emergency list about the fact that our parking is unsecured. And that we have had issues, back during the pandemic, we had issues with bringing people into the police station where we had protesters like outside the parking, yelling at our officers as they're trying to get someone inside the police station securely. Like, that is also a real safety and security issue that is not addressed by what I consider, these are barely Band-Aids to me. And so the $250,000 is not enough to me to have a police department. So I agree with Hans. We need to have those conversations about what we envision our police department to be, and then we need to move forward. And I hope that when we review the list of requirements, that we can get the community on board with. I don't like it. Like, I don't like that we need an 11,000 square foot police department, but this is what the numbers say. Like, this is what the science or the architecture of having a police department says we need. And whether we're a 3,000 person, a 1 square mile community, or 2 square mile community, or a 3 square mile community, there are some basic things like handling detainees or having secured parking that we absolutely need in our police department. And no amount of I don't like it, or I think we should have a smaller police department, I think we should have a smaller building. No amount of saying those things is going to get us closer to doing what we actually need to do to house our employees and make our employees and our community safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Also great comments. Chip, do you want to say anything before I submit my idea?
Yes, sir. Just real briefly, I don't want to run over Bravo's tail. I don't need you already gave me approval to do the safety work, so thank you for your added support. But we're doing those things, the doors, everything that Paul had on his slides. And then, my suggestion is that we bring back this other list that were in the assessment report, the site drainage and the roof and the earthquake, and as well as what Mr. Barron just said about the, what was the item, sir? In the middle of the pack.
The list of requirements of a modern police station.
Yep, there was one particular, whatever, I'll review the video, sir, sorry. But there was one item. We'll bring those back because, again, that will require an appropriation. It'll probably take bidding and all that kind of thing. So
All right.
that would be this page, needed repairs. We're doing the safety repairs. Don't worry about those. I'll take care of those. But the needed repairs with budget estimates associated with them.
Okay, and I don't think this is a proper venue to talk about the overarching policing strategy. I think it's sort of preliminary to do that. Maybe should be done, but not in this meeting.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Not amongst us.
Actually, it's not on your agenda,
Yeah,
so
so we
yeah. I
can't
mean,
talk
if you'd
about
like to, talk
Yeah.
to me individually or as some kind of a smaller group, an ad hoc, I'd be happy to do that with you.
So you don't need any direction from us or a vote to continue with the $250,000 in improvements?
Correct, sir.
Okay, so I might make a suggestion, and I'm willing to discuss it, but what I'd like to do is to have Mayor Pro Tem Delves and I form a very short-term ad hoc committee so that we can have conversations with staff about some of the things that everybody brought up.
Okay.
And then amongst us, we'll figure out what we want to do with the information that we gain.
Okay.
In terms of, one of the issues I have is we're going to spend $250,000 without any kind of plan about how those improvements are used in the longer term as we redesign the building to make more sense for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been nice to have today, but it may be throwaway, I don't know. But
Yeah, and they might be, and I think we had that discussion back in February. These may be things that we could reuse, but maybe not.
Okay.
Because again, you were concerned really about the essential safety of the people that visit the building as well as people who work in the buildings.
So Bob, are you okay with that?
I'm okay doing some work. I'm not entirely sure what the outcome we're trying to achieve.
And I'm not either,
is.
but I think we've been cut out of a lot of discussions that have been going on.
Are we going to answer those questions?
Some of you have,
We need to.
Yeah,
but you need to, yes.
that's why I'm asking what votes do you need from us today?
If you could answer those two questions, that'd be great. I will tell you that if we're no longer going to use 4-leaf for whoever the firm that Mr. Muir works for, I'm going to have to carve capacity out of somewhere else or hire another project manager. And I don't know. And I don't do that with a snap of the fingers. So my suggestion is if you're going to set up an ad hoc, let's keep the current team together and come back with a recommendation.
At least get debriefed.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That'd be great. That's
All right.
great.
Any comments about that? And I'm talking short term. So if we have to, we'll have a special meeting to come back and continue that discussion.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So are we going to be paying Indigo and 4-leaf more for these meetings that you are going to be having as an ad hoc committee?
Chip? I mean, again, I have no connection to any of this.
Yes, I mean, I don't know that we're going to have to, I mean, we may have everything we need from Mr. Hammond, but there might be the necessity for the ad hoc to talk to Mr. Hammond, but certainly Mr. Muir. It's not hundreds of hours, ma'am, but yes, that would be necessity.
I don't support spending any more money on the consultants. I say we put an end to that, and I believe that Chief Tomasi and Commander Trayer have enough information that they could meet with the two of you, Bob and Dale and Chip.
We can do that, ma'am. My concern is that part of the critique of the process has been that Chief Tomasi is acting as a de facto project manager, like he's got too much skin in the game, or he's too much of an advocate. My response has been, well, he's the professional in the room, right? I mean, he's the person who understands policing the best. So if that's the will of the council, we'll certainly do that.
I would prefer that we continue to have them for the very short term.
How long
I
do you
mean,
think
if
it's
nothing
gonna-
else, we need to debrief and
Yeah, so 6
make
months
sure-
or something?
no less, 30 days. We need to start moving down the path. I heard that pretty loud and clear from everybody here.
I don't, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, how would you define how would you define, I guess, like this, obviously it's your prerogative, but how would you define the scope of the
I don't know.
committee?
We have not been part of this process.
Yeah.
I would just like to be able to sit in a room, and it doesn't have to be Bob.
No, that's fine.
I would like to be there. If Jeff, if you want to do it, you've had experience in the past.
Does it make more sense to, it seems like there's a desire to explore outsourcing the police department. Does it make more sense to spend this $250,000 to have like a basic level of safety and then have that discussion that it seems like some folks want to have? Because otherwise, I can't see having a discussion about building an expensive new police station.
I think you can have them in tandem, sir.
Yes.
I think that you can talk about, again, the next phase of needed repairs, as well as a consolidation opportunity in the same ad hoc.
Yeah.
I don't want to do the next phase of needed repairs if we're going to, if we don't have, right, if we're going to build a different police station.
Well, I think
right?
that's why they work well together, right? Because it's like this list costs, pick a number, $5 million. I don't know what the number is. But consolidation opportunities actually save $5 million a year or something like that. That's part of the metric that'll help you make your decision on both the consolidation opportunity as well as the necessity of these repairs. And then you can figure out what to do with the building next.
So I would submit to you that, again, we're kind of skipping steps, right? Like there needs to be an analysis done of whether you can achieve the legally responsible, like the things that you have to have in a police station, and the things that we want to have in a police station, like analyze the needs document. And like, before we start costing it, like, is it even possible to keep the existing structure and do that? Like, why?
No.
Like Hans is saying, like,
It's not.
Hans and I,
Then what are we doing?
like, this is a list that you have this is your assessment report. There's a list of the 6 things that you want to do. And I don't mean that in any disrespect. But I think Hans is saying, and I'm saying, that I don't know that this list is right. And when you're talking about spending $5 million to do this list, my reaction is, why is this the list and not the list that's in the report that Indigo put together? This is not my list.
Yes, sir. So my suggestion is that
these are important. Don't get me wrong. These are, I would assume that earthquake retrofitting and having a heating system, like, of course, those are important. But I don't want to retrofit and have a heating system if we don't.
There's also a list. There's also a
to-
list that the chief put together.
Yeah.
Right. Like the actual things that he thinks we need to have.
This is a subset of the chief's list. So, so maybe you task the ad hoc to determine, first of all, whether this is a complete list or it's excessive or what have you.
But that's the process that the last ad hoc committee, that I was never successful in getting out into the meeting of the 5 of us. And I don't think that going over the list of 50 things or however many things are on it is a job for the ad hoc committee. Like I think that's a job for the 5 of us. Like, and everybody's not going to get what they want, and that's okay. But I think we should, like we could sit here now and go down that list for my.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, so
I don't want to do that today, but I agree with you that if we could all sit in a room and continue this conversation.
Here we are.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know that all of us came prepared to stay here for 5 hours today. I don't think so.
No, Bobo certainly didn't.
But
he was asleep, actually.
It'd be wonderful if we could do this all the time, right?
Yeah, the programming requirements, as Mr. Barron says, are in this document. So it would take some time. And I don't want to do it in a defensive way, like this is what we, again, it's really the operators who have put this list together, as well as the architect who does this for a living, right? He builds police stations. So we can say, you need this because it's a state law or what have you.
Yeah, I would love, so there's an Excel, it was clearly put together in Excel, which is helpful, but it's got like sort of a one-line,
Yeah. It's supposed to Word document.
It's like soft interview room, secured parking, and what I would love is to just add one additional level of detail to that list, which is like, this is a legal requirement, and by the way, the legal requirement says X, right? Or
like for parking. security of the...
Exactly. Just like give us some specificity so that we understand like the key must-haves, the ingredients, and what are the things that we're making, what are the things that are required, and what are the things that we're making a discretionary decision on.
Yeah. Okay. I think we already have that somewhere, but we'll if we don't, we'll do that. But we do not. We the staff do not have the professional experience. We would, speaking to Mr. Amoff's question, Mr. Hammond does. So we would continue to have to need him to fill in that next column of regulatory requirement, nice to have, chief need, whatever have you.
I think at this point I could probably do it.
You must be good at it by now. It's a lot of time.
And again, you know, you can do whatever you want, obviously, but you could have an ad hoc review that in a more intimate setting with Mr. Hammond and Mr. Muir and the chief and myself or whatever, and then come back and talk about it among all 5 of you, or we could just come back and do it with all 5 of you.
What do you guys want to do?
So I think we should do it. I mean, and so it's kind of what I thought I heard Hans ask for a month ago for this meeting to be, and it wasn't. And I think it is the kind of center of gravity of, you're talking about needs. And so that just kind of makes sense. And we can all do it, all 5 of us. If Dale, you know, I think Jeff is the best prepared to.
But I would prefer that, I don't want, like at some point, like, I don't want my fingerprints to be on the staff report. Like, I think that, you know, my preference would be to just task Chip with getting together with the police chief and Mr. Hammond and doing that, you know, going through that exercise. I think that's a foundation exercise. And if we're going to have if you want to have the discussion about outsourcing, we can do that at the same time. Like, I think the effort required to put together the meeting for the requirements is pretty minimal, right? I think it's just, 10 hours of just putting the thing together. Like, I'm
okay.
The only thing I would say is,
I could just work with you.
I think there's a benefit to having the entire council have a discussion together and buy into, or at least we'll know Councilmember Dramoff believes X and Councilmember Delves believes Y and Councilmember Booter believes Z, and that's why we disagree, but we'll actually have the granular discussion about the specific components.
Could I add, it is currently raining in the building.
Next to the 220.
Yes, next to the electric panel.
It's been raining for a long time.
I know, but it's not safe.
Oh, I understand. It hasn't been
so
safe
I know
for
you
5 years.
I know we're. So Jeff. I'm not saying we shouldn't improve the work quality of the quality of our workplaces. We should start by having it not rain in the building.
I thought that was that not? Oh no, site drains, leaks, and roofs.
I'm going to rein this in.
So.
Who wants to work with me on a very short-term basis to make sure that we understand what's going on, what processes we're trying to accomplish?
The program needs. So who's going to work with the mayor on program needs analysis?
I'll do that.
And Mr. Hammond.
Okay,
I'll do that.
You want to join with me?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. All right, so we're going to do that, and let's put a 60-day time frame on it.
Yes, please.
All right,
Thank
60
you.
days.
If we weren't in the budget season, Mr. Mayor, but that takes a lot of capacity.
Okay, but we do need to keep moving. In the meantime, you're going to move forward with the $250,000.
Yeah, I got that, yep.
We may have some adjustments as we go through this, but the doors, some of the things you can just do.
Yeah.
And the gate. All right, excellent.
So why don't you get us poll from, you don't need to make a motion if you get consensus among your other council members on that approach, then we'll come back so we'll come back at the end of May or early June.
Yes, and in the question about Indigo is number 1. And
but
Fred,
you need to use them for this analysis.
So we're going to keep them on, but very limited use. Is that okay? I understand. I understand.
I may be
how you feel.
outnumbered.
Yes.
Well, we just need 3 votes. Okay.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
And you don't need to answer the second question now because that's part of the analysis that'll come out of the.
All right, and you and I have a meeting tomorrow. We can talk about timing of how we're going to put this together.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. And thank you for everyone that's attended. Do you want to have any final comments before we end?
No, I think I've spoken enough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your participation today. We hope to see you at a special meeting next Monday at 4:30 and a regular meeting next Tuesday at 4:30. With no further business, this special meeting of the City Council is adjourned.